fiction, science fiction, horror, fantasy, crime, LGBT, thriller.
You have now entered the House of Mystery.
Welcome back into the House of Mystery. I'm Al Warren. Got Mr. Mr. Retired Lazy Man, McAuley.
That is correct. And Mr. McAuley, fine lager, let's see, lover, what else?
Oh, please.
So.
Yes, lover.
So.
Yeah,
Yeah,
strange. Well, it's Halloween. You've got your place almost decorated. I'm almost, because I know you'll decorate right till there's nothing else left.
Oh, I have my Jack the Ripper guy up there, too, so fits perfectly.
Yeah,
so.
You're all ready. Anyway, well, so speaking of Halloween, we've got a returning guest, and he's, I want to call him a writer, producer. He's just gamesman. He's just everything. Drinker. Mr. Chris McAuley, thank you for coming on the show.
Hello, thank you for having me once again. I think drinker should be up there at the start.
Well,
I'm a well-known drinker.
Yeah.
I think that's not so well-known for the other stuff, but I'm a well-known drinker.
Yeah, well, that's all right. No, but you see, I didn't want to suggesting anything by saying drinker first, right? Because that's what it would be, It did be cold.
Well, it was the famous Irish writer Brendan Behan who said that he was a drinker with a writing problem. Maybe that's me.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
I like that one.
What's been going on in your life? It seems like you've always got stuff going on. You're always busy doing things and meeting people and I know that's what you got to do in order to get things completed, right? That's part of it. But what's been going on in your life for the last, let's say, wow.
Yeah, I'll start because the publishers always like me to start with product coming out. The latest Strokerverse product, or one of the latest ones, is called Shadows of the Strokerverse. Now, this takes the Strokerverse beyond Dracula. There's a little bit of Dracula, because we've got to have Dracula in there. But it's all about, if anybody's ever played the RPG, it's that wider universe. It's the Frankenstein, the Frankenstein's monster. It's the Jekyll and Hyde. It's the Miss Havisham. It's all of these wonderful characters. And also there's a little emphasis that we do, on Bram Stoker as well. And Bram knew all these wonderful occultists like A.E. Waite, who sort of created the modern form of tarot card, the Rider-Waite. He also knew Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley's in there. We've got, all sorts of characters. Winston Churchill, because Bram Stoker knew Winston Churchill quite well. And obviously these are fictionalized stories with a little bit of fact in there. So he gets to meet Emily Gerard, and Emily Gerard was the Scottish writer whose book Land Beyond the Forest ignited Bram Stoker's imagination and led him to take his originally titled book The Undead and change it to Dracula. So we have him meeting her there, and all sorts of things. It's 144 pages, and every page is illustrated by master artist Clint Langley. If you're a Warhammer fan, Clint does the artwork for the Warhammer novel covers. He also does Judge Dredd. He's worked on like Marvel and DC. He's one of these big name artists. Clint did the artwork for the Strokerverse RPG a couple of years ago. It's funny, he became obsessed with the Strokerverse. It got to the point, originally the book was to be 100 pages, and he kept drawing and illustrating and painting. I told him to stop, because I'm doing another project with him called Sherlock Holmes vs. Cthulhu. So we're starting that this year. And I said, if we need to do this, we're going to miss the deadline. And Clint was like, no, mate, I just really enjoy the Strokerverse, and I love what you've done. It's like really perverted and nasty and violent, and it's fantastic. It's exactly the way that what I want to be painting. So I wasn't going to stand in the man's way. So what we did was we decided that we would just, to hell with it, we would change the book from 100 pages to 144 pages. And I sort of made that decision with the publisher because times are really tough at the minute. I want to give people as much value as I can. And I didn't want Clint to fly over to Canada and break my legs because I wouldn't include some of his artwork. So I decided, it would be the best for everybody that we would just add the extra 44 pages. So that's Shadows of the Strokerverse.
Right. Well, but on the Shadows and Strokerverse, when you do that, when you have the full universe, like you're doing all this stuff, does the direction or maybe the purpose of what you do change? Is it different than when it's just centered on Dracula?
Well, in my head, it's always Dracula interacts with this universe, so slowly through all the products, I've kind of bled it in. This year we had the Stokerverse card game, which came out from Iconic Studios. And the card game is set like it was 100 years before Dracula. The village folk have brought these vampire hunters from across the world over to Transylvania to sort of try and defeat Dracula and his monsters. And that's sort of like there's a little bit of a backstory to Dracula, that he's been a bit of a menace to these villagers, and obviously that leads into when Harker comes over, the villagers say, you know, you don't want to go there. Please take this crucifix, because they're in the know. So there's prequels and stuff that I had in my head, and then whenever I read Bram's work, like in its entirety, about 2-3 years ago, there was books like Jewel of Seven Stars, which is a Lovecraftian story that Bram had created, which was the basis for a lot of the Mummy films. So I have that character of Terra, the sorceress, who becomes a pharaoh, and you know, it's all about mummies and stuff like that. I have that built in. The RPG really is like an encyclopedia of the world. There's at the minute there's 7 RPG books, and I'm not sure I'm allowed to talk about it, but the hell with it. There's going to be another 4 as well.
Nice.
So, you know, that's a great way, because you've got to build out the entire universe in an RPG so that gamers can play that, so they can experience the entire universe. So I did that, and then the video game, which is coming up, called Dracula Dark Reign, which is out next month. And, you know, it tells this sort of hidden story that Bram had written about Jonathan Harker escaping the castle. It's not in the novel. And then you find out more about Dracula, and you find out more about the castle. And then it skips, once you escape the castle, it actually skips to 1911 and goes into, like, you know, First World War territory, and moves it from the Descendants, and you find out what happened to Van Helsing, and you find out, you know, that Dracula's getting resurrected, and how he's getting resurrected is that the vampire court has decided there'll be a world war, and they need all these human sacrifices, all these bodies, to resurrect Dracula. So that's sort of part of the game. So I had those sort of bookends created a couple of years ago. And then with Shadows of the Stokerverse, it's kind of now sort of almost filling in the blanks a little bit. Some of the work was influenced by Clint's artwork, and some of Clint's artwork was influenced by my stories. And Clint told me this really funny, you know, just this anecdote. We were on this podcast, and Clint says, you know, Chris, I nearly lost my girlfriend because of you. And I was like, okay, well, tell me more, you know, and the host is getting quite scared, because he's like, oh my God, what's going to be said here? And he's like, I started painting some of your creatures in my house on the walls, and he spun the camera around, and on his bedroom wall was this magnificent sort of female spider-like creature, half human, half spider, because Bram Stoker wrote about this fourth bride, or fourth weird sister, and I transformed her into this sort of like half spider, half woman, quite sensual character. And he had this painted on the wall, and she was suspended upside down. It was quite sexually explicit. And, you know, I was like, oh, right, okay. And she said, oh yeah, the girlfriend left me because my house is starting to be covered by, you know, Strokerverse stuff. And I'm like, Jesus, you've got to stop, man. That's an addiction. You have to stop. And I said, by the way, spin the camera around to that spider. Yeah, that'll be a tough wank as well. Fair play to you. So, yeah, this is my working relationship with Clint Langley. It's fascinating because he's calling me up and saying, I've created this thing in the Stokerverse, but I don't know what it is. And I look at it, and it's very clearly the white worm from Lair of the White Worm. Okay. So what fascinates me is that somewhere in the subconscious of Clint Langley, Bram Stoker is residing somewhere.
One of the reasons why I'm excited always to interview you is because Bram Stoker's best friend, Sir Henry Hall Caine, was the boyfriend of the suspect, Jack the Ripper suspect, Francis Tumblety in the 1870s, yes. And he was involved with the Elixir of Life stuff. And here's the Lyceum Theater with the Order of the Golden Dawn. All of that stuff is kind of coming together, and so I always get hooked up with Aleister Crowley and A.E. Waite as well. Yeah. So it's like it's the stuff that I research is on the fringe of kind of what you are doing. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously do it from a sort of fictional point of view. I mean, we do have Francis Tumblety in there as well, and we've got Hall Caine in there. What's really, really important to me, and that'll touch on another project, is that there is, and I cringe when I say it because I don't know how else to put it, but there is diversity within the universe and diversity within the characters, right? And for me, it's very important to put the LGBT, emphasis on LGBT within the Strokerverse. Right. Because, I've written about folks in the Victorian era who, there was no word for it there, but they were transgender. They worked in the music halls or whatever, right? And that's in there. And I've written this. I wrote it last weekend. It's an erotic Dracula audio drama, which has already started. It's gone into production. Crystal Lake is actually putting it into production, along with my movie company XG3, and XG3. It's wonderful. XG3. We have this audio chap who is the lead audio guy for the Metropolitan Opera in New York. So, we've got these wonderful resources. And the first audio drama is about Lucy, Westerner. It's very, it's erotic, it's horror. Lucy has an attraction to Mina, and Mina has an attraction to Lucy. And I think that's slightly hinted at in the novel. Right. Now this Dracula audio is away from the Stokerverse. It's something that I'm just doing, and I've just written on my own. So it's not based on Bram's work, but it takes those characters and it explores human sexuality. Like, what would it be like to be completely unrestrained and just to live life the way that you wish to? And I think that that's part of Dracula's allure in some respects, for so we have that, and the actress, she's amazing. She's a fantastic lady, Diana, and she's just Diana, she's just amazing. Very committed to the role. And this has only happened in the last 5 days. She's recorded this in a studio. I've written her part on Sunday. Sunday, yeah, I wrote it Sunday. She recorded it on Tuesday, took the photographs on Wednesday, and Crystal Lake have signed up the audio series yesterday.
How do you tackle that? But writing. How do you write her parts? How do you write that? What do you do to set yourself up to be ready to write a part like that? That was weird because I've written one erotic audio before, which wasn't meant to be erotic. It was called The Forbidden Act, and it was voiced by Sam Underhill. And that's a pseudonym for the lady, because she prefers that. The reason I wrote The Forbidden Act was because a friend of mine who's a Buffyverse writer and a Star Trek writer, Denise Jensen, she challenged me. She said, there's no way you can write anything romantic or erotic. Because my stuff to that point had been, dark horror, violent dark horror. And had been, there was success with it. And I thought, well, the hell with it. I'll give it a go. So I wrote Forbidden Act. It became an audio. Women had a particular reaction to it. Let's leave it that way. And that was the interesting thing for me for the first time in my life. And then I sat down and tackled this business with Lucy by thinking about it from the perspective of the characters. Okay, so what would attract Lucy to Dracula? So, Lucy is a Victorian lady whose best friend is sort of almost like a school mistress type figure. That's not accurate to the novel, but this is just something that I'm kind of riffing on the characters here. And then I sat and thought about, well, if we have a love triangle between, and not even a love triangle, it's a love quartet between Arthur, Dracula, Mina, and Lucy, and what goes on there in their heads. And then I try and think about what's erotic about a sexual encounter with Dracula. What would be erotic? And, I do get quite explicit in it, but in a very tasteful way. And I'm a novice when it comes to writing eroticism. I'll give an example. When Dracula comes into Lucy's bedroom, he performs oral sex on Lucy. And for the first time, Lucy has an orgasm. She doesn't know what an orgasm is because she's never experienced it or, really heard about it because it's all hush hush. Dracula then proceeds to bite Lucy. But I thought it's quite erotic to have a man take care of the woman's sexual needs first before his own physical needs, if that makes sense. That was kind of the basis. Then I started looking at Mina and how Mina started looking at Lucy as she was transforming. She was becoming attracted to
to Lucy, but wasn't sure, and then Lucy was attracted to Mina. So I tried to do it in a way that wasn't, pornographic, because there's a big difference between eroticism and pornography. Eroticism is very psychological.
It was kind of the opposite of misogyny, since
it
she's
is
being taken care of.
Yeah, and I think that's important. And then, there is this love quartet that happens. And Dracula is very much from the outside. And it's funny, I don't have Dracula as a hero or a villain in this one. In the Strokerverse, he's very clearly a villain. In this, he's just an instigator. He's the catalyst for a lot of things. And he's a mirror, I think, that is held up to these characters. And obviously it's all a metaphor for, and the other reason that I wrote this thing was I was so incensed by the restriction of rights that seems to be coming in, and I hate getting political, but this is one of the reasons I wrote this. I'm disgusted with the restriction of rights for the LGBT community, or the attempt restriction of rights. I am extremely angry at how transgender people are being treated in some quarters of the media, and that was part of it as well, if I'm completely honest. So there you go. It's probably a rather long-winded answer, but
no, but that's what causes it. It's in a writer or person that creates any sort of art. It's usually something that's affecting them, and it could be something like that. It's like you get a feeling from something happening around you. It turns into a passion. So that's.
It is different. I'm straight cis guy, right? And it is a very different mindset that you get into. But I think I have a very strong sense of empathy. And, I have a lot of friends in the LGBT community, and it was like, firstly what I did was I actually sent the script to somebody who's well versed in eroticism. And they loved it. And they said it was a real Victorian bodice ripper. I think that was a compliment. And then whenever Diana read it, I was very sensitive to that. And I said, look, if you read this, if there's anything in here you want to change. And she was great, because she sat with me and she said, well, we could change this to this, and actually women would find that more appealing. And it was really good. It was a nice collaborative partnership with her.
Well, that's how it goes, right? That's how it comes. That's how we learn. So what? You're busy. So what else you've got going on? I see a handful of things here.
Yeah. So apart from the sort of the Dracula stuff, today was really nice because I'm a big Doctor Who fan. I have been since I was a kid. And I've been working in and around the Doctor Who universe now for the last 3 years. I've only been a writer for 4 years. I worked that out this morning. I've only been doing this for 4 years. But for about 3 years, I've been very privileged to write in and around the Doctor Who universes. I've always been a big fan of the Daleks, sort of the classic Daleks. And I wasn't so much a fan of the new Doctor Who Daleks, because they were quite ineffectual. They weren't really scary. The Daleks are these things, genocidal, mutated blobs sitting in a tank. I've always said that the Daleks are born from hatred. The Cybermen are born from fear. Fear of sickness and death. But the Daleks are born of pure xenophobic hatred. The dislike of the unlike, And they've been genetically engineered that way. So I have this long-standing relationship with Terry Malloy, who's Davros in the classic series, and is Davros for the Big Finish audios. And Terry was I've written a couple of Dalek stories and Davros stories published, and Terry helped me with those. And then John Peel, who's a very well-known Dalek writer, he was actually mentored by the Dalek creator, Terry Nation, and he sort of passed the baton down to me a little bit. So we got a license from the Terry Nation estate. The BBC don't own the Daleks, it's Terry Nation estate. I decided that it would be a charity-based book. I'm very mindful that I'm lucky that I get to do these things. And I sat down with the illustrator. He's a marvellous guy called Charles Waples. He illustrates James Bond things as well as Doctor Who things. And I said, look, there's a particular charity, multiple sclerosis, MS Focus. And why we chose that charity was that they will help people pay for hospital car parks and, almost the mundane stuff that people forget about whenever a loved one gets sick or you get sick. And they also raise money for MS research. And I thought, wouldn't this be a lovely thing, to do and help out with? So we got the licenses all sorted, and then I wrote the book. Yeah, it tells all the sort of the stories. It's an anthology story, and book, and it tells all the stories about the Daleks between the TV shows. Well, that's the way it started, actually. And then it kind of moved on, and then I started looking at the Daleks and what they would be like, and I asked Terry and John for advice. Then I wrote a story with Terry and John in there as well. Wonderful editor, Mark Worgan, he brought it all together and did the cover art for it. It's beautiful cover art. Yeah, it's out today, and every penny of it goes to MS Focus.
Nice.
So I did that. That was nice. And then I work with a sort of a Doctor Who spin-off company, BBV, on various products. I've written 20 products for them so far. That's been, I suppose, quite monumental in a way.
So why do you think Doctor Who's been so long-lasting? Like, it's since I see the old black and whites from when I was a kid, and I'm an old man, so.
It's like Shane, the Western Shane. The hero comes, sorts out everything and walks away.
Yeah.
That's the motif. I think that's the spiritual motif of Doctor Who. I mean, there's some wonderful writing in Doctor Who about how we all sort of change through our lives, but we don't remain the same. And I think that's a metaphor. Whenever the Doctor regenerates, we're all sort of, we're many different people throughout our lifetime. And then it's all about trying to be as kind as possible. Peter Capaldi's Doctor had that word, basically, be kind. Hatred is always stupid, and kindness is always wise. I think that's really the key. And it's that heroism. The Doctor doesn't necessarily know everything, but his heart his or her heart is in the right place. And it's that empathy and caring. I think that's what really, and then obviously the monsters, right? Because some very, very powerful monsters in there, because it's okay having a strong hero, but you've got to have even stronger monsters to fight against. So a lot of Doctor Who's monsters are, it's pure evil, and then you get shades of evil. You get the political evil, you get the economic evils of some of the enemies and villains. But the Doctor always tries to do the right thing. And I think that's the backbone of. I went on, this happened, I went on to a Battlestar Galactica podcast, and they were talking to me about non-Battlestar stuff. And I wondered, what was it about this? Because I wasn't around then. I ended up getting the DVDs. I'm watching it. I was hooked on it. I thought it was great. And it was, it was very much of its time in the 70s. But it was great fun. And again, it was that a group of humans just trying to survive and try to do the right thing and hold on to their humanity through very, very difficult circumstances. And sometimes they get it right, sometimes they get it wrong. And I thought that was wonderful. And, that kind of led me to working on a Battlestar Galactica fan film, and, that brought me into the world of films. So you never know, what a particular fandom will do creatively for you, if you just give it a watch and see.
No, it had quite an impact. I was alive then, so.
Yeah, me too.
And in high school, and there was nothing like it really that came out, and so it sort of had a big impact for a couple of years. So what else you got going on, Chris? Is that it? Are you getting lazy or something? Or
yeah, I suppose I better talk about the film stuff now. You brought it up. So yeah, the Battlestar brought me into connection with Emmy Award winners and production people who wanted to create a film company. So we called it XG3. Yeah, our first project was something called The Stranded Warrior, which is actually set in classic Battlestar Galactica. There's an episode about Red Eye, who's a broken centurion who kind of rules this planet. And there's a little bit of a backstory that somebody from the Galactica might have crash landed, a colonial warrior. He stood up against Red Eye and ended up getting, killed. So we tell the backstory of that, and we inject it with what it's like to be in a long war with no seeming end. And, you end up with PTSD. And the main character, he's lost his wife, who is also a Viper pilot. And then we bring in Count Ibley. He was played by Patrick Macnee in the TV series, and he's basically the devil. So there's a bit of a cult that has kind of popped up on the Galactica after he left, because some people believe that his way was actually the right way. That if he had just stayed, he would have gotten to Earth. So it's a tale of murder and sacrifice and fighting Cylons. And it was a lot of fun. And then I started to I started getting qualifications in VFX. Now, I wasn't a VFX person on the film, but I was able to sort of look at VFX and understand it using Nuke and Adobe After Effects and Houdini. I just found the whole process of making a film fascinating from beginning to end and doing it all. So they asked me to be executive producer on it, and I did that. And then we've been winning. I think we've won 20 awards so far worldwide.
Oh, nice.
Which is really nice. It is. It's really good. And then I co-wrote this film called The Tar Protocol, which is like a sci-fi occult military drama. Yeah, it's been winning awards as well. So it's about an ex-military guy, Colonel White, who was out in Iraq during Desert Storm, and he uncovered something in the desert. And he ends up being asked to be ahead of a sort of almost like a paranormal investigative team within the military. And then he finds out, that the US government's been hiding things for many, many, many years. And then the US government turn on him and he goes into hiding. Then we cut to sort of like 20, 30 years later in New York. And there's a cultist group that is seeking to bring this demon in from an alternative dimension. And he brings his old team back together again for one last hurrah. Again, it was a lot of fun. I mean, it sounds fantastical, but at every step I tried to inject a bit of reality in it. I think this is the thing with film and television, that you can have fantastical premises, but you've got to introduce them slowly to the audience. You've got to give them some grounding of believability, so whenever you ask them to step off into the unknown, they at least have got there's a little bit of credulity there. And that's sort of what we did with that, and it's been doing really well too. Look, I mean, I look at all of this stuff and I just wonder how the hell I'm doing it all, and I'm just really lucky. Yeah. I think I'm very lucky just to have so many good people who are like, we'd like you involved in things, and, you go and you learn a lot from it. I was getting all these awards, and like Hong Kong Film Festival named me Maestro of Cinema, and I'm anything but. I read a lot of books about cinema. I've always loved film, and I suppose I sort of absorbed a lot of that watching film, and then I took courses on VFX and scripting and things like that. I think I'm allowed to talk about it, but I did a project with Robert Rodriguez last year. It didn't really go anywhere. It went to the scripting stage, and it went to the investors, and we're in a bad time at the minute. It's very hard to get investment. But it was its own thing. It was about cartels and stuff like that, and and then you learn learn script writing at a different level there. Like, so I was writing all these big action scenes, and then it was like, Jesus Christ, stop that. You have to count every bullet that's fired.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always the production side.
Right? And I mean, I kind of get that now, being an exec producer and having a very strict budget on what we can do on it. So anyway, I've been doing films as well. I've been dipping my toe into that. There's another film that I've written that's being made. I'm dipping my toes into television production, but I'm not allowed to talk about that, I don't think, yet. Dark Legacies is kind of moving. Bruce Boxleitner talked about it, so to hell with it. Dark Legacies is moving towards television as an animated show. So Bruce talked about it at a Comic Con when we weren't supposed to. But hey, it's Bruce Boxleitner. I'm not going to say no to him.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, hey Bruce, maybe, So like Dark Legacies is moving on. We've got issue 3. And what was lovely about that was I was able to inject some Doctor Who stars in there. So the stars of Star Trek and Babylon 5. And I brought in Nicola Bryant, who was the 6th Doctor's companion, Perry. And she's Claudia's ex-girlfriend in the series. And Claudia and her are great friends. So we were able to do this wonderful cover with James Geller. And issue 4 will be coming out next year. And then we are moving to Crystal Lake, and Crystal are going to do 4 issues a year of Dark Legacies. So that's been quite good.
But at the end of it, when you're doing all of these, do you ever have problems with one crossing into the other when you don't want it to?
No.
It's
strange. My mind's really compartmentalized when it comes to that. It's like, I know it's Stokerverse, I know it's not. I know it's Dark Legacies, and I know it's not. I have a very clear vision of everything. I mean, I think for me, I'm lucky because I imagine everything and just write it down. That's what writing is to me. It's just I imagine it and I write it down.
So you put yourself in that universe.
Yes.
And then you're good.
Absolutely. And I can imagine the characters having the conversations around me, and then I can imagine the characters having conversations with me. I mean, when I wrote Davros, the creator of the Doctor Who thing, Terry Molloy rang me up, and he said his first words to me were on the phone, "You hear him too, don't you?" And then Terry read out the lines as Davros, and he said, "You've nailed this. This is how Davros thinks, and this is how Davros talks." It's just how I write. I did a little bit of work with Clive Barker this year. That was an interesting experience. And Clive, we did there was an anthology, and Clive put a lovely dedication to my work in there. Sometimes when it's the very grotesque stuff and gruesome stuff, I've learned to remove that from my mind very quickly, so I write it and forget about it, and it's gone. Because I do write some quite violent things, and I'm not a violent person at all. It's the story that comes to me, and I'm willing to go there with the story. I go into the dark with the story, but I come out the other end. I leave the story behind, if that makes sense.
How do you know it's not the other way around, where you're really in that dark and you come out, you go into the light every once in a while?
That's actually a very good question, because I did worry about that for a while.
Yeah.
I write kids books and stuff now as well. Like, there's no dark.
There you go. You see,
there's no darkness in the kid. I mean, I wrote a choose your own adventure book, which was wonderful, called Alien at the Backyard Barbecue, and it's about gamification of writing, so that I can sort of get kids into writing and things like that. It's wonderful. But I did that with Crystal Lake Kids, and I've written The Muller Tree, which I've written with Claudia, and Claudia's partner is a Grammy Award-winning composer called Richard Danielpour, and he's turning it into a composition like Peter and the Wolf, and it's going to be, this kids' book is going to now be played by orchestras across the US with Claudia at the front with puppets, and doing the whole Peter and the Wolf thing, because we're desperately trying to get kids back into writing that way. But there's nothing dark about those. I mean, I've written a thing called Monster Kids for Crystal. And, Joe's great, because Joe at Crystal, he's actually, I designed puppets with a Disney Imagineer for the book. And the puppets are amazing. But all the characters, like Vlad Jr., I've created a mummy called Manny Bandages, Wolfie. They're all kids that live in Munstertown, and they're all afraid of something. So like Vlad Jr. is afraid of the dark. So his mum gives him a little pendant that lights up. And the whole story for that is that they go into a well. There's a shooting star that leads them to a well. They hear this horrible voice basically saying that this voice is going to take over all the dream worlds. And an owl comes to them and says, it's up to you to defeat the Sandman. And they go through the well that takes them to the dreamlands. And the first one's like Pirate World. The second one's like Mystery World. And they team up with Long John Silver and Sherlock Holmes and stuff. But there's nothing dark about those monsters at all. But the other stuff, I do get concerned about that. I mean, I think that's why I stepped back from it a bit. Bruce Boxleitner read one of my, I think it was Dracula's Bedlam, and told me he couldn't sleep for 3 days. It was like, the stuff I'd written, the Jack the Ripper stuff in particular.
Oh, good.
That was, so I imagined Jack the Ripper. I mean, again, I can't tell you where this comes from. When people say, like, where does it come from? It just comes from somewhere, and I see it in my head and I write it. But the character of Jack the Ripper, I always reasoned, was a painter. So I thought, like, Walter Sickert, painter. And he takes his easel, walks through London town, gets to the dock, sees his ship, starts to paint the ship. This Labrador dog comes and, is very friendly and accidentally knocks down his easel, destroying his painting. So he's like, okay, no problem. He puts up the easel and another fresh canvas and starts to paint, and then starts to feed the dog a little bit. Home time comes, he packs up, the dog follows him. He takes the dog into an alley and he starts to cut the dog up, rearranges the body parts like a Botticelli painting, and if he's very, very, very quick, he can use his finger and thumb to take the tear from the dog's eyes and taste it as he goes on his way. That's the start of the story. So, that is very dark.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I'm an animal lover, but I reasoned that he would have been some form of, that it would have started that way. Like mild annoyances and,
I was just going to say that I have a few discoveries in the MO that, although it's still quiet, I would love to let you know about that stuff and then see where your mind goes with that.
Yeah, it was to me it was just all logical, and then it kind of moved into the Dracula stuff. So,
oh yes, for sure.
I moved in then to that. He was starting to have dreams. So he was starting to have dreams at night. And, these dreams were very unclear, and it was like walking through a fog, and then eventually they get clearer and clearer and clearer. And when he was walking through London, he heard like fairground music, but there was no fairgrounds. And then in the dream, then there's a fairground with naked women riding carousel, and he's trying to draw them and sketch them, but he's frustrated with it. And then the women come to him and hand him a knife and ask him to see them as they truly are. So he cuts them open in the dream, and then he wakes up, and he's very disturbed by this, and he performs. I'm trying to be careful what I say here because I don't know who our audience is, but he performs acts of self-harm.
Our audience is insane.
Right. Okay. Grand. So then he has a dream about Dracula coming through Whitby in the prow of the ship. This demon figure with red eyes. And Dracula tells him that actually inside all these women in Whitechapel, there's wrong in them, and really with the knife he can uncover their true selves, and that's what he does. So that's how I kind of injected it into the Dracula universe, and you meet him in the RPG, and you'll meet him in the video game as well. And that kind of came from Bram writing Ripper ? In one of the books in the London Library.
Well, that's interesting because how Dracula is immortal, and that's where the Scotland Yard absolutely researched the idea that the killer was looking for the elixir of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's one of the things that I write about, and so that's fun. That's neat.
And
it's not fun that these women died, but it was the creativity that you're putting into it is really exciting.
And it disturbs me because I know, Alan, that you write a lot about serial killers too.
Yeah.
And I worry, and this is me from my moral point of view, I worry that I'm writing things that are giving people ideas, or that people think that I am justifying evil in some way, and I'm certainly not. And I say that, like in the Strokerverse, I'm very, very, whenever we were talking to the TV producers and execs and stuff, I told them, oh shit, I've just let something go. Anyway, I told them very clearly that I do not want to justify what Dracula's doing. It has, Dracula's evil. He's a misogynist. He's a rapist. He takes people against their will. He's a horrible, horrible individual. I mean, I think Jonathan Harker's actually one of the heroes in the book. And I've talked about that at length in other ways. So do I worry about this? Yes, I do. I have good mentors who I sit with. I'm not ashamed to say that I have, I have a psychiatrist that I do talk, to about this stuff as well. Because look, I want to be a normal, healthy human being for my wife and for my cat, right? And I have a good friend circle, and I go out with them, and I'm fine. I'm normal except for the fact that I write some extreme horror.
It sounds like you're writing Dracula to be a politician, maybe be the next president.
Well, you see, this is the thing. This is very interesting. In the pages that were removed from Dracula originally, Dracula goes to England to basically take over Parliament and take over the throne, and he's in a room with very influential gentlemen, and he extols violent socialist revolution. The strong man, he's a Nietzschean, so he believes in that, that there is no higher power than the self, that the strong should rule the weak, and it is that form of Nietzschean dialogue that's quite dangerous. This is why I went to the kids' books and things like that, because I think the purpose of story is to tell us edifying things and to pass on edifying information about humanity and about who we are and about, good things about ourselves. Right, and this is why I love, going slightly off topic. I wrote a book for, I think it was Water Tower Hill, and it was about the Gospels, and it was the Celtic interpretation of the Gospels, with no dogma in it at all. It was a poetry. It was written in certain iambic prose that mirrored Celtic poetry. And I look at those stories, and I don't necessarily believe that they're historically true, but I believe that there's a metaphysical truth to or a metaphorical truth, to trying to be the best human you can be. And for me, it's wrapped up in some of those stories. For other people, it's going to be wrapped up in Superman, or it's going to be wrapped up in Batman, or it's going to be wrapped up in other very positive stories. But I think that's the prime purpose of the story. I think Dawkins actually wrote about that as well. So I do try and temper it. And I actually talked to Clive Barker about this. Like, how do you temper it? And Clive told me, which is very interesting, that a lot of his horror came from observation of himself and observation of the world around him and sexuality and all of that stuff. I don't know where my horror comes from. I think it just comes from the story. I've tried to analyse it, and I don't know why.
Yeah, you're too young.
I feel old, Alan. I feel old, though. Well, I just got breaking news for you if you want it.
Oh, breaking news.
Breaking news. Crystal Eck have just told me that Mother Tree, the kids' book that I've done with Claudia, will be released on the 21st of November. And it's beautifully illustrated. It's like Beatrix Potter illustrations. It's really, I can't wait to show the cover. It's incredible. So, yeah, I suppose I do quite a lot of stuff. And it's just like, you know, I do things I enjoy. And like, I always try and use what I do to tell people, follow the things that you love. You know, Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss. And I really believe that. I said, no matter what it is, if it's like writing horror or mystery or, you know, whatever, right? Crafting with clay, follow the things you love.
What if it's too much? Do you ever feel that you've bitten off too much more than you can chew, and you have a hard time saying no to some great people?
But I love spending time with my wife, my cat, my friends. And I think I have a good balance. My wife would be very quick to say, fucking stop this. I don't want you to do this anymore. Or whatever. And there was a time, like, it's not all roses. There's times where I get frustrated with things. You know, there's times like when I'm dealing with TV show execs and stuff and, you know, agents and all of that. I have no problems with publishers. I have no problems with co-writers. You know, I have had problems with execs and stuff for TV. And some of those problems were my problems. And I have to learn to just hand the thing over to them. Peter Hogan, he was the creator of Resident Aliens, a friend of mine, and he said to me, he gave me great advice. He said, just look, when somebody is purchasing a franchise from you for TV, you're handing your baby over, and it's theirs. And, you know, I've learned to let go. Yeah,
it's true. I was told that a while back. It's selling a book, and it is true, because when you see what they do to it, you don't always like it.
Do you get a feeling that you know it's good whenever you write it?
Yeah, especially near the end when you're writing it, and then when it comes out, and that you just like, wow, this like when you look back at it, you go, wow, this is great. This is really good. I like this, and not even about technical stuff. It just turned out really well. It turned out the way you had hoped it was going to turn out before you started it, you know, and that doesn't happen often.
I've had it 3 or 4 times. When you have it, it's that sort of excitement.
Yeah.
And then when you show it off to somebody, like a trusted friend, and then you kind of like leave it with them, but you think, you know, this has got to be good. They've got to like this. I've written a few things that I actually fucking hate now.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You know, you get good reviews and Goodreads and stuff, but I have a whole thing where I don't look at anything I've ever written. It's done, it's dusted. I don't even have any of my stuff. Like when I wrote Terminator, I was gifted like Terminator busts and things like that, and signed things by Terminator actors. I keep it. I've kept all the Strokerverse miniature figures because, you know, having a miniature game out was pretty important. I've got like Strokerverse beer things.
Yeah.
The unusual stuff. But the books, I gift them away. Yeah. Because I don't want to look at the shelf and go, oh yeah, I did all these things, right? Because I think the ego is the most dangerous bloody thing for a creator. If you actually believe that you are something, like I don't believe my own press, and I don't believe press written about me.
Of course. It's terrible.
You know?
No, but you got to, because otherwise if you buy into it, then you become that, and that's not what you want to do.
You don't want to. I mean, the writing has been the biggest gift for me. I've done this for 4 years. I'm a new kid on the block. And one of the things that writing has taught me, it's taught me so much about myself. It's been self-transformative. I've had so many friendships. Like when I started this, I was very ill. Like I had cancer and everything. I was, you know,
Ouch.
People didn't think I was. Oh yeah, I mean, whenever I started StokerVerse, there was in the contracts, like when it was literally, when you die, your intellectual property will go here, here, and here. And I had, I dealt with that. Just went, okay, that's fine. Because, it's going to happen at some stage, but, I really wasn't well. And, the Strokerverse came out and it was great. It was fantastic. And, I got to do other things with lots of other different people. I mean, one of the things I never thought I would do was Star Trek, or be like front cover of StarTrek.com or front cover of Star Trek magazine. And like whenever I worked last year with Walter Koenig, he's Chekhov, and like he spent time with me and we wrote this wonderful story, which is like an official sequel to Star Trek 2, Wrath of Khan. And it's set between 2 and 3. And it's what happens in the Enterprise between 2 and 3. And we wrote this in Paramount and we got it published in Star Trek magazine, and it was front cover of Star Trek magazine. It was published in a landmark anthology, Star Trek anthology, that has all the Star Trek franchises in it. And I was front cover of Star Trek magazine and StarTrek.com and various articles for a whole month. I didn't think I would ever bloody do that, but you kind of go with it, and then kind of, I sort of forget about it all, and then whenever I remember it, I look back and say, yeah, that was nice. I did something that was special to me,
Yeah.
So if you do the things that are special to you, it really helps, I think really helps enrich your life a bit.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic, Or you sleep your way into these things and that works.
Yeah, I gotta try sleeping sometime.
Yeah.
I'm not good at that.
No, me either, actually. But, well, listen, do you want people to contact you? Do you set up, where do
look, I'm
you?
very free and open Facebook. It's kind of I have an open door policy on my Facebook. As long as you're not crazy and you don't send me dick pics or vagina pics, I am perfectly happy. You just
send them to Michael.
I've got a story before.
Chris accepted my invitation.
I did.
So I know I know he likes everybody.
But I did have, it was funny. I did get sent some vagina pictures, and how I dealt with that. My lawyer told me never to do this ever again. Was whenever I was sent them, I said, a Rottweiler chain a wasp or whatever, and the person came back and said, "What the hell are you talking about?" I said, "Well, I thought you sent me a Rorschach test." That was a wrong way to handle that, and I probably shouldn't handle it that way. But no, contact me on Facebook. We've, www.stokerverse.com is one of the websites. If you look me up in Google, you'll see all the different things that I'm doing. I've got a Terminator wiki. There's a Doctor Who wiki now. Star Trek wiki. Battlestar wiki. You can also follow me at XG3 Film Productions, and that's I can't remember our website, but you'll find it, and you'll see all our latest films and things like that. But yeah,
okay.
Thanks for having me, folks.
It's been a real pleasure. We'll put it up on our website too, so people can find it.
Thank you.
Don't get it mixed up with mine. I'm Strokerverse.
Strokerverse is something different. I did put towards Dacre that we should have Dracula flavor, Dracula condoms, love at first bite, but he didn't like that idea. He said no. Oh well.
Yeah, no, that's because we have that at Strokerverse.
Strokerverse, yeah. Bram Stoker, that's completely different.
Bram Stokerverse, yeah, he's Anyway, but I'll tell you the story about that later.
Well, thanks, folks. It's been fun.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Take care of yourself.
Great speaking with you.
This has been a production of the House of Mystery Radio Show. To find out more about our show, guests, or hosts, go to our website at houseofmysteryradio.com.